This is a Smart Marketing Show, episode number 170, Running Your Business with a Home Life. Brought to you by WordPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out at serverpress.com. And our new show, The Query, check out WPwatercooler.com/The Query.
Here he is. Oh, poor Jason. Hey, thanks everybody for enjoying us. Oh my God.
It fits the topic for today, though, right?
It does fit the topic for today. Today we're going to talk about how do you have real life happening with a pandemic, and all of a sudden, if you have children in school of any kind, from pre-kindergarten all the way through college, pre-K, yeah. Duh. Keys, I'm moving. Or if you're moving like I am and Jason Tucker is, and or both like Jason Tucker is, like, how do you do your work? You know, Jen has an agency and teenagers that are in school. I'm just moving in 22 days to San Antonio and trying to work for clients. How do you manage it all? Like, remember that commercial, Jen? Calgon, take me away.
Oh, absolutely. And I have a soaking tub and I use it all the time.
I will have a soaking tub on September 15th and air conditioning so I can make it as hot as I want.
Nice.
I will put Epsom salts on subscribe and save for Amazon. But yeah, it's super difficult to manage all those tasks. I was literally talking to my neighbors yesterday. It's saying, I didn't do any work. I didn't do any work for my clients. And they're like, well, I'm sure you did. You didn't like sit around doing nothing. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I went to Goodwill. I went to ship something that somebody bought, blah, 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 blah. So I'm a big fan of time blocking. So we'll save that for later. But Jen, like, how are you, I know I saw some of your Instagram pictures about kind of how you're dealing with meal prep and stuff. Can you talk a little bit like how are you dealing with running next door marketer and facilitating your boys being in school?
Well, the only challenge is actually on Friday mornings when it's WP Water Cooler and I'm on the show, because that means we're all streaming at the same time. So that can be a little bit funky, you know, and I've had a couple of other times where I've jumped on someone else's show or been, you know, in an interview or something, and my connection is sketchy and I have to actually interrupt their school time so I can do my work. But
wow.
Other than that,
do you mean when you say interrupt their school time, Jen, are you saying you're telling them, hey, you guys need to take a break, get some food in the kitchen, and get off the internet kind of a interruption?
I'm like, right now you need to go on break from school. You can catch up this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even think about the streaming issue.
Right, because they're Zooming and other live streaming. Like, they're both on different programs that are both online programs. And it's not very often that I have to do something like that. And now I know to preventatively do that, but it has happened, and it's only been like 3 times. But if all 3 of us are streaming, and you know, I have an apartment, and if she's streaming and they're streaming, it's just a lot of load on our internet. And even though we have screaming Wi-Fi and, you know, the repeaters to keep everything doing what it needs to do, it's just too much sometimes. So that's been something that we've had to just sort of work through, and we have. It's great. So one of my sons started school at the beginning of August, and one just officially started on Monday. And their programs are very different. The one who started at the beginning of August, it's very self-paced. It's a minimum amount of hours that he needs to do per day. But as long as he's reaching his goals and turning in assignments and showing up to the live events, and there's a little bit of flexibility there as far as whether he needs to be in class at 8 a.m. or in class at 3 p.m. It doesn't matter. Or 8 p.m. even. And his teachers have told me, look, we get it. Teenagers are all over the map as far as their awake times. And so as long as the assignments are turned in, they're going to count them. There are deadlines for everything. And so, but I mean, I've raised 8 kids. Okay. when my kids were in physical school, we had some that would have projects and they would be up until 2 a.m. working on those things.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much you prep and prepare, there's always something that might come up. And, but then I had other students who, by 8 p.m. all their work was done and they were getting ready for bed. So it just depends on the child. My youngest is in a program where at 7:37, he has to be in a Zoom classroom.
Right.
And that is scheduled for 40 minutes. And then there's a 10-minute passing period. And then the next class, because they give them time to go get a snack, use the restroom, take a little internet break, whatever it is. And it's been really interesting to see such a structured format in an online setting. It's almost like bringing school home. And what's nice about that, and I think the reason they're doing it is because their plan is to bring the kids back eventually. So they don't want to get them out of their schedule. They want them to remember first period this, second period this. And but for my child who's in junior high, his math class is at the high school. So he's having to juggle 2 different areas of scheduling, and he's up to the task. So it's great. But, it takes a little monitoring, and he does, even though he's very self-motivated, he still is like, hey, Mom, I need you to come help me with this. Mom, what do you think this means? And, and so I've been still involved with the curriculum as well as, just the logistics.
The fatigue is real. And I mean, I'm even getting it. I work a normal 9-to-5 job that I tend to find that I really don't want to be on another meeting. And I've been pulled into multiple of them. And I've even asked, is there any way you could tell me if there's going to be a visual thing that I need to see to be in this meeting? Can I just dial the phone number on Zoom or Google Meetup or whatever it is that we're using for this meeting and just put myself on mute on my phone, listen to the meeting, take notes, do whatever it is I need to do, work so I can actually get my job done while the meeting's happening. Change it up a little bit. If you can get away with putting the meeting in audio, then do it. That way you don't feel like you're strapped to your desk, because even at work, if you're at a physical location at work, you're going to get up, you're going to walk over, you're going to go to the printer, you're going to pick something up, you're going to get up, you're going to walk over to the reception desk, you're going to say hi. You're going to get up, you're going to go grab a pencil from the supply closet. You're going to constantly get up and move around. But when you're in your desk, no joke, if I needed scissors, there's scissors. If I need an Allen key for some reason, I have an Allen key.
I have one of those too.
You know what I mean? I have all the things right here. So I kind of don't have to get up and do anything. And you need to just be able to walk away for a minute and do something different. And that meeting fatigue thing, if you're not going to visually do anything and you have clients that you're going to be speaking to, just tell them, here's the phone number to call this Google Meet thing that we're going to be using, or here's the phone number, I'm just going to call you directly. Because you got to think that even your clients are going to have that same fatigue, and they're going to also just have that another one of these things. Bridget, a lot of your stuff's not visual, right? It's more just like the words that are being said. There is probably some visual component to it, but
Okay.
you don't necessarily need to have like a screen share where you're like, here's the 30 tweets I'm going to write for you. And here's the, you know.
No, I don't normally have to meet with my clients on a regular basis anyway.
Yeah.
But for consulting, I really need to see their face. That's the whole thing. It's like there's so much communicated right here. Because you can go.
I didn't see that. I need to move the window that was in front of the screen.
You know, so like when earlier I was like, oh, Jen, can you hear us? Because I thought she was going like this. And when people turn their head, it's usually because they can't hear. So those are things you're not going to pick up on when you're on the phone, right?
Yep.
And like Jen and I talk for hours and hours on the phone. I'm walking all over the place, putting her on mute when I'm putting ice cubes in my drink because it's super loud and, you know, whatever. But yesterday I had a client meeting with, you know, an existing client, and I knew it was about writing and like how we're going to kind of structure this. It had a Ring Central ID. So I was like, it's a conference call. So I just used my phone, because if I'm going to be on the phone, I prefer the audio that comes from my phone as opposed to the computer, because I'm a Mac, I could take phone calls on my computer. And I have, if like I'm sitting here after this and then all of a sudden it rings, and I'll take it, but I'd rather not, because now I'm stuck to my computer. I can move my phone around. I could go outside. Pretty sure when I was talking to Jen, I was putting those pictures outside during one of our calls. But, you know, so anyway, so I get on the Ring Central and Tracy goes, oh, hey, what's going on? I can't see you. I'm like, oh, I saw Ring Central and I assumed it was audio only. She goes, no, they have video now. I'm like, oh. She goes, don't even worry about it. I don't care. Right? She's over it. She's over having to be in video.
That's what I was going to say is, so last night I actually had a conversation by phone, and it was so nice to not have to worry about the video component and just be able to keep that thread going and talk, you know? And sometimes I feel like when I get on a new client call, a lot of those are done through something like Zoom or through Meet, just so that, you know, we can get to know each other a little better. Like you were saying,
face to face.
There's a lot of communication that happens that doesn't necessarily happen through an email or through a telephone call. And that's great, I think, for a first meeting or a check-in after 3 months or something like that. But a lot of times just that voice-to-voice connection, there's a lot that can be communicated through that. And so I've been, like Jason said, I've been utilizing the phone much more than email, just because I don't want to sit and watch, you know, do more on the screen. Doing enough writing, I'm doing enough other things that require my time on my computer. And so anything that allows me the freedom to be able to walk and get a drink and put ice in it and mute myself, you know, like you were saying, Bridget, it just makes life a little easier, especially when I'm monitoring the kids. And, you know, as an agency, I think I'm seeing that my clients are in two modes. They're either wanting to be more online in visual because they don't have the outside stimulus going on right now, or they're wanting to be less. And so I'm just being adaptable to whatever it is.
Yeah. But for me, I know, like, it's the eye strain. It's the visual fatigue. It's the clutter. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I decided to move to San Antonio, to Texas. It's less clutter. It's less traffic. I know they think they have traffic. They didn't get on the 91 and see 6 lanes of that BS. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you're constant. Like when I'm only listening, I can focus only on the words, right? And I could be in that client meeting and focused on that words, and I could take notes. I'm like, okay, so what I'm hearing you saying is we're going to skip the wireframe and we're just going to write the words that need to be on there, and we're just going to go basic. Yeah. But otherwise, I'm like, oh, what is that thing in her background? Oh, I like that. I like that red thing. What is it? I wonder where she got that at. Well, I need a chair like that. I wonder if they have chairs like
Oh,
that.
the resin came from Peru.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, and I noticed that I put this on Facebook Marketplace, and somebody was like, "I'll pay more than $1 if you hold it for me." And I'm like, "Oh, it's gone." It's not gone. I forgot to take it down there, and I'm sitting here on the call, looking at my own background, going, "I forgot to put this down there," because I'm not going to take. I love this because my friends gave it to me because it has the latitude and longitude of where I live. And I love data point, but I'm not taking this to Texas. But even then, I'm distracted. See that there's pluses and minuses to being on the video. Yeah, you can see the facial expressions, but also you have those developers who are looking at a different screen. So this is what you're talking to.
I don't understand that. I haven't figured out how.
Look
how
at the green light. Look at the green light. Okay, for the people that are going to be on the show after us, look at the green light. Love Bridget. I've been saying that for like 10 years. I'll just sit like this for the whole show and be super rude because now I'm turning my back to you. Now it's almost worse being on video because now I feel kind of ignored. You're not even looking at you don't even know if I'm joking because you can't see me wink.
So what about dealing with the scheduling of meetings and the scheduling of things? So I'll give you a quick little thing that probably is going to point us in a different trajectory, but it's something that hopefully this would kind of help start this up a little bit. So I work for a church, and we have about 60 people that work at the church, and working at churches is being my second one. A lot of the folks that work there are either single and this is their primary income, or they're married and this is the family's secondary, not primary income. So what ends up happening a lot of times, at least what I've been noticing, is the fact that because of these people being the secondary income and all of that, is that the primary is using the computer, is using the desk, is using all the stuff, and the secondary person is using the the iPad on the kitchen countertop, or the Chromebook on the love seat, or any of those sorts of, just like they need to be someplace. You have the wife in the family that's a doctor and she's working, and you have the husband who works at the church. You have all sorts of different things that are happening there. And then you have all the kids that are also doing their things as well. And, everyone's splitting all the moving the people around and doing all the things that need to be done. Scheduling a meeting has been super duper hard. And I've also had people hit me up and say like, hey, can we do this meeting on Saturday?
I did that.
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
all the time.
no, Saturday is my day off. Why would I have a special meeting just for you? No, I'm sorry. We can't have a special meeting on Saturday. It's just not. I get it. Like, you're busy too, but like, we both work 9 to 5. Like, we can figure out how to do someplace within that 9 to 5 to make it happen.
So that's about boundaries. That's the boundaries. And so for me, I'm a freelancer. I like to work half days Fridays, and I work half days Saturdays. So when I had that client meeting with my new client, and he was like, oh my gosh, thanks for doing a Saturday. My kids and wife are gone, so this is perfect. That's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes you can be flexible.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm moving to the Central Time Zone as well, is so I can have meetings that are easier to schedule with my clients I have no clients in my time zone.
Huh. Wow.
So
that's interesting.
So that's the thing. And then I'm a big fan of time blocking. You guys have heard me talk about it so much, you're sick of it. But that's what I started doing. Like, I started protecting my Calendly, and nobody can schedule a meeting before 9:00 unless they're a current client, and I manually say yes.
Right.
Because it needs to work that way, because I'm not that strict of a person. Like, if we're having that much trouble and they're like, oh my gosh, I see on your schedule you're not available until 2 weeks, we need to get this done, then I'm like, okay, pitch me a time and I'll tell you if it works. But for whomever that's a consulting call, they can consult with me Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between 10 and like 2. And that's it. That's all that's open on my Calendly. I take no meetings on Mondays and no meetings on Fridays.
Yeah.
Very, very small exceptions for my most loved clients only. Because I need to be able to focus all that stuff. Right. And now, you know, Jen's in air conditioning because she lives in Arizona and you can't literally live in it there without air conditioning. But you and I, Jason, are in California. So we're in that part of the summer where it's unbearable and everybody in the East Coast is saying things to us like blah, 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 blah. This is when the 9 to 5 kind of works against you because I've been waking up early because I'm still on Central Time in my brain, I guess. And I've been working either super early in the morning or late at night because I mean working, I mean writing. That's what
Right.
my things that I need to concentrate on. So between noon and 3, I'm watching baseball and checking notifications. It's too hot.
Yeah.
So I blocked that out, you know? So, but like Jen brought up, if all y'all are on the internet, I mean, this is why you were crawling in the attic, right? To have a hardwired connection.
Yeah, just for the show. And my daughter's going to have a hardwired connection in her room just so she can do her Zoom meetings and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's probably an option that I should look at if I think that we're going to have a lot of interference on the time scheduling. And I can, in my office, I can hardwire if I choose to. I just, you know, it's an extra step. So, but as an agency with a calendaring, what's been great is that I use Calendly too. I've been using it for a long time. And we have different times blocked out for different client needs. And I did the same thing, Bridget. If a client, I mean, I give out my cell phone to my clients. And I also explained to them that, you know, I am available to you, but it's an urgent basis. And it's best to reach us by email because someone is always watching the email account.
Yeah.
And my email account happens to have, it's my personal email account for my company, but I have given it up so that it can be monitored by everyone who works here so that we can have a 24-hour surveillance on that. Because if something is an emergency, I want to know because I want to be able to help the client because that's when you form those bonds, you know, and it's hard to believe that you can have an emergency with content, but you can all the time. And sometimes it's because, whoa, this just happened and we need to make my audience aware. And I've had a lot of clients that have had things like that happen over the last 8 years. And it's isolated events, maybe once a year, maybe not even that frequently for each client. But when we've been able to act quickly, it's changed their results. And so that's why it's important to be available. And I do the same thing. I block out Mondays. I absolutely do not do client calls on Mondays unless I'm making an exception.
So have you seen any of this have a negative effect on your client work?
As far as the calendar blocking? No.
I mean, like this situation.
Okay. So COVID as a whole, absolutely. Absolutely. Not because we're not responsive, but because clients' budgets have been slashed. And so it's hard to, and I mean, we've had people who committed to website builds who will not give final approval because they can't pay their bill. We've had people who were on recurring blogging contracts who have had to just say, Jen, I can't do it right now. And I'm super understanding about that because I would rather preserve the client relationship than take action. But, and so it's disheartening for everyone, but I still have to keep someone on watching for those emails. You know, a lot of my business expenses are constant because I want to be able to provide the quality and service that our clients have gotten used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not as available though. I will say that because I don't need to be. And so I'm spending a lot more time with my kids, with my dog, you know, with friends, and just enjoying having the little break, and working on other, you know, below the surface projects that I'm getting ready to launch. And there have been a couple of marketing opportunities that I've seen and started to work on or progress through and are at like launch time sort of thing that I wouldn't have had the time to consider before. But I need to keep myself busy, and that's one way to do that. And so, you know, 2022 is going to be a great year.
Yeah. 22. So Jason, with that 9 to 5 constraint, how's that?
Well, it is a 9 to 5 constraint, but it's also I'm finding that because the fact that I'm working with a lot of folks that may be the second income within the family, and I don't want to, I want to preface this with, you know, I use the term second income, but really what it comes down to is like the primary one is the breadwinner. They're the one that's bringing in the money. And the secondary, I don't want to make it sound like they're not important or anything like that. It's just, it's a different dynamic within the family.
But that happens.
So here, the reason why I bring that up is the fact that some of those people that are in that secondary position are not able to work during the time when their other, you know, there's other significant other is working. So what ends up happening is you get emails at like 9 o'clock at night for things that are saying like, hey, I need you to work on this thing. It needs to be done this weekend, but this week, and it's Friday, and today's my day off. And I'm like, what do you mean? When this week? When was it supposed to happen this week? Because the week's done. And so a lot of folks just they're not realizing what day of the week it is. They're not realizing what time of day it is. There's, you know, and there's a lot of tricks to kind of work with that. You know, for instance, I've been telling a lot of people when they send me an email at some odd hour of the night that doesn't necessarily need to be done immediately, that what they should probably do is in Gmail, because we use Gmail for our emails, is to schedule the email to go out in the morning.
I started doing that.
It's like if the email does not need to be worked on right that second, because I'm going to work on it. Sadly, it's going to be 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to be sitting there watching TV, watching like Umbrella Academy or something, or watching, I don't know, The Chase on Netflix or who knows what, just watching something and then going, you know, I should work on that thing because I don't want to deal with it tomorrow. And then I start working on it and then it gets done. And then I'm now perpetuating the problem, which is I'm working outside of my hours and I'm showing that I'm working outside of my hours. So that's where, like, if someone were to just queue up a bunch of 8 a.m. emails and blast them out, and I got 7 emails from somebody at 8 a.m., like one person, I'd go, okay, I respect that. They're queuing them up because they don't want me to work overnight. But then there's other folks where they're just like blasting out the email and hitting send, and then it's 2:30 in the morning, and I'm about ready to go to bed, or I've already been to bed, and now I'm like, why are you sending emails at 2:30 in the morning? Well, it's because they're having to catch up just like I'm trying to catch up. So I don't have a right answer other than if you were to schedule the email so it shows up in the morning, at least it looks like you're not doing that stuff. And it looks like you wrote a 45-minute long email at 8 in the morning, which, okay, it's better than nothing.
Well, it's the other person too. And like, I know we used to have this problem when I was in Slack at a job, and especially if you're remote, and Slack is asynchronous, but also it's live. So if you're not there talking about it, then you miss out.
Yep.
So even though you're not supposed to be working, or even though you should be in bed, the truth is that if you don't participate, you don't get your input in. I have a client who doesn't use Slack, uses Basecamp. I actually have 2 clients. It's solely Basecamp. That's it. There's no project management and Slack, it's just Basecamp, which is nice. Basecamp 3 is really nice. And like Jen mentioned, I think on the show last week or something, I watched part of it.
I've been using Basecamp for years.
I know you're a huge Basecamp person. I just follow Jen, whatever she does now. But I did get the Calendly recommendation from her. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. Stop distracting yourself, Bridget. Okay. So the Basecamp, I like that it has a thread, like there's a message thread, but there's also a water cooler. So the water cooler is more like how Slack is kind of organic. It just happens like Twitter. But the message boards could be like super specific, like we're going to do X, Y, and Z. What do you think, Bridget? Ping, and then they have direct messages where they're called pings. But I like that there is a place for a water cooler, and it's called the water cooler. And you could just sit there and blah, blah, blah with people. But there's also message boards, so you don't feel like if I see something, and I'm behind everybody because I'm in Pacific time. Because one's in Toronto and one's in Franklin, Tennessee. Well, they're remote, but most of them are in Franklin, Tennessee. So, or Cleveland, I mean. But you're sitting there and you're behind. So then you feel like it's not said. It's that feeling, because a notification, this constant notification situation, it's dinging you. And what it's doing is it's giving you that fight or flight. Bing, bing. And so I can turn off my sounds on my phone, I could talk to my neighbors, leave my phone in the bedroom, which is what I did yesterday, which is why I missed your call, Jen. But then you get back to it and there it is. So if you schedule that email instead, or set up your system so that you have a meeting about a certain topic and you're not missing everything.
Right.
Well, and most project management tools like Basecamp will allow you to set your on hours and allow you to set when you want your notifications snoozed, so that you don't have to leave your phone in another room. Thing that I like about it, though, is that I get emailed an archive of everything that happened in my company the day before, and that way I have a running tally. And this goes back to that mental clutter thing. But as a business owner, I don't have to control everything, but I have to be aware of what's going on in my company. And so I have hired people who are trusted, who I, have a good enough communication schedule with, that I can empower them to do their jobs. And then it's just reaffirming to see that tasks are being done and things are being met. And so that's why you use a project management software, is so that you don't have to be in the middle of it.
Right. So, but the other side of it is for the person who's not the owner, right? Like me, I'm in everybody else's Slack, Basecamp, whatever, WhatsApp, So I can snooze my notifications and I can set those hours, but I also know decisions are being made, because you wake up in the morning and you're like, this used to happen to me with a client in England. I'm like, I'm 9 hours behind you guys, or 8 hours. And you already made the decision. So therefore, I had no voice. So that's a challenge with being distributed.
Right. Well, so because I look at my people who are distributed as partners in my business, I involve them in the decisions that affect them. So I don't make blanket decisions often. It has happened, but when it does, I send an email and ask for input from everyone on the team. And it's usually, I'm the one up late thinking about things, and I just am like, okay, these are some changes we need to make. This is what I'm thinking, but if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I don't implement anything until everyone's been notified. But that's my
nice.
managerial style, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, so for me, like with that whole time blocking question, just to go back to it, Jason.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I'm trying not to work in the middle of the day with my brain. So then in the middle of the day, I eat my peanut butter and jelly sandwich and Fritos like I did yesterday, watch some baseball. And then when it got cool again, I started doing another load of, a bag of shoes and 3 bags of clothes to go to Goodwill. And I put them in my car. Because if you're moving or downsizing, like Jason and I are doing, or merging's, well, we're not doing it together. That sounded weird. Jason and his family are merging households. I am moving 1,200 miles away in 22 days. And I'm only taking what's in my Civic, which means I can't just pack stuff and have friends over and order a bunch of pizza and load it up in a pod. Because I don't have the money for that. Even if I wanted to do it, it's not a choice. I'm not spending a bunch of money to take used furniture 1,200 miles. That I have nothing that valuable. And if I do, it's for my marriage, and I don't want it anyway. Because it's sad, sad, sad. Widow Bridget still has her marriage furniture. Not happening, right? It's 4 years. Time for to move on. So then you got to do, like, you have to think, when is it my best time to write and do that work for my clients? The rest is monitoring. It's still work, but it's not the same as sitting down and going, I'm going to write this article. So I do all of that in the morning. And then I do my lunch, baseball, rest, pack. And then at about 7:00 at night, I start again with client work, because I know I get a second wind around 7:30, and it's also cooler, temperature wise, I mean.
Right.
So because I'm not a 9-to-5er, I can do that. So in the middle of the day, I don't need to be smart. I just need to be able to pack.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you in that. Like, I have clients outside of work that I have to manage their websites and their infrastructure and their servers and all that sort of stuff. And, I do that normally at night. Well, if I'm doing that at night and then I'm getting a work email from my normal 9-to-5, now I'm like, which one, it's like one of them pays the bills all the time and pays for the health insurance. The other one is extra money. So it's like, how do I manage those pieces and try to get it all to kind of work correctly? So it's a tough one. And I'd imagine that other people that work at the church probably have second jobs maybe, or they run their own business, or they do, who knows, a myriad of things. And so because of that, it's like you got to figure out what is going to work for you, and you also need to be able to make it so that when someone is going to work for you, with you, by your side, any of those sorts of things, that the timing is going to work out right. And you may want to ask people, and we've had this discussion before, Bridget, you may want to ask people, what is the correct way for me to interact with you? Do you want me to send you a text message? Do you want me to send you a Facebook Messenger message? Do you need a message through Slack? Do you need a message through some other third-party thing? Do you only want me to send you Twitter DMs? Do you only want me to send you Instagram DMs? Do you like all of those things? You kind of have to look at all of those and figure out, like, depending on the person and depending on what it is that you're doing, what is the correct way in order to interact with them?
Well,
and
I was a
the correct way to
secretary.
interact with them?
So remember, I spent 30 years of my life being interrupted. That's what a secretary does. Ironically, as I interrupt you to answer this, like, that's the thing is, I'm used to that. So that's why I used to plan to be interrupted. And I didn't reconcile the bank account when my boss was in the office, because it was Bridget. And I'm not even exaggerating. I wish I was. Sounding like a frog, ribbit. Then why did I want to change my name? Bridget. Bridget. So the thing is that a lot of our audience, Jason, a lot of them do that. A lot of WordPress developers have a 9 to 5 or whatever. We call it 9 to 5, like a main job. And then they do side work. So how are you supposed to do side work when all of a sudden you are managing all this other stuff? I mean, I have a lot of friends that, I date people and maybe it doesn't work out, but we're still friends. All of a sudden they have their regular job. They have their side hustle. They used to be able to manage that. Now their kids aren't at school. The kids being at school was a supervisory system. I don't want to say babysitting because that's really bad way to talk to teachers, but it served that purpose. So you were not distracted as somebody working by children. The teachers were paid by either your private school donations or property taxes. Okay. So that was happening, right? And now, you only had to work around their schedule. Like Jen and I would talk when she was picking up kids. Now my friend, Apollonia, she has 2 different kids and they're at 2 different schools. Well, one doesn't go to school anymore. One's just in daycare, but whatever. So now she calls me when she's going to get Maddox because that's when she's free to talk.
Right.
And the child that's now at home instead of school is with his dad. Like you have 3 kids. I know a lot of single men that are full-time dads.
Yeah.
And no offense to the men out there, but this isn't what you're biologically. There's a lot of men who can't multitask. Like women are made for that. And I know I'm going to get in trouble now from the gender neutrality, but I'm just saying, like, it's not that I don't think that they can. I'm saying the stress level on a man doing that is much greater, whereas women could do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I remember my husband. I would say, "What'd you do today?" He goes, "I did the laundry." I go, "Well, why didn't you put the dishes away?" He goes, "I was doing laundry." I go, "But what were you doing for the 30 minutes while you're waiting for the washing machine to do it?" He goes, "I'm doing laundry." I go, "What about the 45 minutes when it's in the dryer?" "Well, I'm folding the other clothes." That's all I could do, Bridget. And he was a genius, literally genius level IQ with a photographic memory. If he was doing laundry, that's literally all he could do.
Yeah.
So I would come home from my 9 to 5 and have to clean the kitchen with a house husband. I was retired, right? And only dogs. Oh, the dog threw up. Did you clean it? No. And I used to be really angry until I understood it wasn't personal. So what I'm saying is, like, the emotional labor of households goes on women.
So
that's reality.
Right. So I had 8 children that I was raising. So that was at a minimum 7 different schools that I was trying to do while I was trying to maintain my businesses. And I mean, for a long period of time, I got 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night because that was all I could do because my commitments were so huge, because laundry still had to be done. Breakfast still had to be made, and a lot of times I would be sitting in a parking lot writing out blog posts because I was waiting because I wanted to be at the front of the line so I'd get there half an hour early versus being the parent who was trying to write at home and then realized I was late and would have to pick up my child late. And so because you never wanted to get there right when school ended, because then you just had to like snake around the the neighborhood until it was your turn. So that was wasted time because you had to be 100% attentive. But I learned early on that if I pulled up and I parked by the park, then I could get my writing done, take a break, and wait for the kids to come out and then move on to my next school. And that was my life for a lot of years. And I didn't, because maybe that I was female, I don't know. I think it's just because of the person that I am. I didn't really question that role. I just was like, I've got to get all this done because there's a long, list of things, and it's just a matter of crossing it off. So I think it's individual to the person
Oh,
as
for
to
sure.
how they multitask or, assimilate tasks and take care of
I
them.
just feel bad for no matter what's going on with the gender, there's still at least 75% of the WordPress developers are men. Come on. So we still have a lot of work to do with STEM and women in tech. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be that way. I'm just saying I have a lot of empathy for our friends that are men who
Right.
all of a sudden have so much more on their plate and the burden of leading a household.
Yes. Well,
Stress-wise.
and for women. I mean, I have
Both,
four
yes.
daughters that are going into marketing or tech field, and they're prepared to have a shift in that role, and they've had the example, right? They've learned by watching me that it can be done.
Right.
And I think that as they mature, they're going to figure out what level they want that to be what they do. And
So
it's
stressful.
all about setting those boundaries and figuring it out. And sometimes when you're the pioneer in this whole remote work world, you don't know what those boundaries are until you start to set them. And when I started speaking at conferences and traveling more, I started to realize I need to block out my time. I need to preserve myself so I have something to give. And my business coach used to always tell me, I needed to bring in more content to my life so that I could produce more content. And at church, we're always told, you've got to fill up your vessel so you can share what you know with other people. And it's in every space of our life, we have to allow time for us to be able to absorb, reflect, and receive whatever inspiration from whatever source so that we're able to be who we need to be to give it back.
It's a mic drop.
Well said. I want to transition us into our tour tip of the week, if you don't mind. Our tour tip of the week is brought to you by The Query. The Query is a new show that we have starting up on WPwater. Look, I couldn't make it big enough, right? The Query is a new show on WPwatercooler Network. If you go over to the website, WPwatercooler.com/The Query, you can learn more information about that and also ask a question to the host, Jason Cosper. So, Bridget, you want to start us off? Jen's been having to start us off the last couple episodes while you're out on assignment. And so we'd love it if you were to start us off.
Yeah, so Facebook Marketplace. So the thing is, my friend Julie was really big on Facebook Marketplace, and then that's how I got my 2 chairs that I love that have birds on them, and so everything became like birds around here, which is really cute because I manage Twitter, and so but that was 2 years ago, and then I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all this stuff? And Sarah Phillips was moving, and she's like, that's what she did with Facebook Marketplace. So I said, okay. And I sold my couch. I sold my dishes. I sold my wedding china. I sold like a cake plate. And then yesterday, I just put all my art prints that I didn't want to keep out in front of my mailbox. And I took a couple pictures of them. I said $1 each, first come, first serve, put an envelope on my mailbox, contactless. It's like basically a contactless garage sale. Here's my address. It's there or it's not. Don't steal from me, honor system. And it worked. There's like, I don't know, there's maybe 5 things out there left.
Not bad.
Awesome.
Yeah. I will say, so I was looking at the Facebook Marketplace for San Antonio, and then I posted my couch
in San Antonio.
And I kept getting all these messages, and they're like, where are you exactly? I can't find you on the map. And I go, wait, where do you live?
Near the ocean?
Where do you live? Oh, I live in San Antonio. I go, oh my gosh, did I put this in the San Antonio Marketplace? So if you're moving to another marketplace area, and you're looking to see if there's things for you to buy once you move, just don't do that. Stay in your own marketplace, sell your stuff. I do things the hard way so you don't have to.
Your own zone, Bridget.
Of course I would do that.
So since you shared something that's very workable, I'm going to share something that I rediscovered. I moved a year ago, and I gave up a lot of the habits that I had when I lived in Huntington Beach, when I moved to Arizona. And one of them was having dinners brought in, because it just was something we didn't need to do. I have a lot more freedom and time to cook now that I'm in Arizona. But early on, you both know this, in April, I ended up getting COVID. And so I was kind of out of commission, and had to have my daughter and my mother helping with the boys. But the one thing I could do was order from DoorDash. And they would bring the food. It was contactless delivery. And then the boys could come and get their food. And they never got sick. You know, there was not a problem there. And so, did you know, and I shared this with you, Bridget, and I know you've taken advantage of it. DoorDash? Okay. So if you have a Chase account, the delivery fee is just waived. So that's really nice.
Oh, wow.
You're still adding your tip and everything, but at least for me, for like 4 months during COVID, there's no fee. And it's a lot of time savings to be able to order something in if I was planning on ordering out. So
Right.
even without having to worry about me not being able to cook for my kids and needing another option, which is why I originally started doing it. Now there are times where the boys and I are talking and we're like, oh, PF Chang's would be really nice right now, well, we can have it in 30 minutes and it doesn't have an additional cost that and an additional risk that would be there had we gone to the restaurant. The other thing that they deliver is Baskin Robbins.
I know, that was the worst thing you ever told me. I'm so mad you told me that.
But it's amazing because you can do all your options and they let you customize it. It's pretty cool. So anyway.
Dude, I have done that. I go like, oh no, hand packed. I will take this, I'll take that. Oh my gosh,
You can make a $40 ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can, but it's the regular prices. That's what's so cool.
Well, I know, but you end up like, oh, I'm gonna add an extra this, or I'm gonna add an extra that. Like I wanted, like I ordered some from someplace one time, and I looked and I was like, oh, it's only $1 for extra meat. Oh, times 4. Okay, so $4 more just for the thing that I ordered. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Okay, well, on the Baskin Robbins note, the 2-scoop sundae versus the 2-scoop ice cream, in a cup, like it's maybe 10 cents different. So go for the sundae if you want the extras, and then you don't have to pay the add-ons.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a good hack.
We'll find them when we need to.
Yeah. So mine is if you have an Apple Watch. I don't actually have my Apple Watch on, and I'm using my phone to be able to do this. I literally can't demo any of this that I would normally demo. But if you have an Apple Watch, an Apple Watch acts like a remote camera viewer, if you aren't aware of this. So whenever you take like a group photo or something like that, you could take your Apple Watch, have it on your wrist, take your phone, put it on a tripod, or attach it to something, or stick it on a tree, or whatever it is you need to do.
Stick it on a tree.
This is from experience.
Yeah.
And then take your watch, open up the list of apps, and select the one that says camera. And what happens is it will connect to your phone and be able to see what's on the camera on your watch. So I've used this hundreds of times and never even thought anything about it.
That's like literally the only reason why I would want an Apple Watch.
Right.
They never say that.
You've never told us, Jason. How?
I'm sorry. So
Not
so
you
yeah,
personally. I mean, Apple. Good
personally.
job, Steve Cook, or whatever his name is, Tim Cook.
Tim Cook. Yeah. So if you knew this, which I did, and I essentially use this all the time for stuff. The one in particular that I was trying to do is in my new home that we're moving into. I needed to move and pull networking cable from one side of the building to the other. But I was trying to pull back cable that I already pulled, so I didn't need as much on the other side. So I took my phone out and I set it on the ground and kind of propped it up and pointed it at this like pile of wires. Turned on the app on my phone, on my watch, walked over to the other side of the building, and just started pulling my cable. And I watched the cable slowly but surely disappear until I got it to where I needed it. And then I was like,
That
perfect.
is such a cool hack.
That's cool.
So essentially, you can learn. You can like look around corners without. You can look around corners. You can look through walls. You can do all that stuff, and it's pretty awesome. The one thing that's a little extra about it that I like is the fact that if you're on Wi-Fi, you could go as far as you need to as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi network. So Jen could like have her kid run out to like the back house, and she could be there with her phone or with her watch watching the camera go out that way. You can also control it to take photos as well as take videos. You can tell it to switch between selfie and not selfie mode. The list goes on. It does everything.
Okay, so Jason,
Yeah.
my kid wants to go skateboarding, okay? And I want to monitor him without monitoring him. Could I put the Apple Watch on him? Oh, okay, just check.
No, that's a little too much. It won't do that.
Okay.
You'd have to own the street and have Wi-Fi all the way down the street, and it would have to be on your Wi-Fi network. But yeah, essentially, it's a great way of being able to like look wherever it is that you're working on. Like for instance, if you were waiting for like I don't know, like say like water to boil,
That's what I was just gonna say. Cooking.
you can point your phone at it, look at your
I'm
watch.
getting an Apple Watch now.
My mom always said never leave the kitchen when you're cooking.
Unless you have an Apple Watch. An apple a day.
Or if you don't want to watch paint dry, you could point your phone at it and just watch paint dry from the other room while you're doing something else. Like there's hundreds of uses for this thing.
Yeah, I could have pointed it at the little garage sale that's outside.
Right.
Because I'm in my bedroom. I don't know what's going on. Also, I don't want to talk to people right now.
So is it just, it's open camera. Can you also do it as like video? Like, can you video?
Yeah, you can tell. It shows in real time what's happening on the screen. So if you're looking at your watch and you were to like move your hand in front of it or anything like that, it would show it. So it shows it the entire time you have that thing running.
So you only have
it runs your batteries down on your watch quite a bit. But other than that, it's great.
I'm kind of used to dead batteries.
But you would have to set your phone so that it doesn't go to sleep, right?
It does all that for you. Because it knows that you need to continue. Apple just does stuff. It just works. It works the way it's supposed to. Like, however you think things are supposed to work, Apple usually has it set up that way, so you don't have to do anything extra.
Nice.
Wow.
So report back if you use this hack or you've used something similar to this with this whole camera thing. Hit me up on Twitter at Jason Tucker and let me know what you thought about it, because I've been using it for forever. I use it for all sorts of things, just like we described. And even go one last little crazy tip is, for instance, if you need a flashlight and you also need to look inside of a wall.
As you do.
As you do.
Every day.
So you and you want to look down the wall or up the wall or side the wall. If you take your phone, your iPhone, and you load up the camera app and go to video, and then tell it to turn on the flash, then shove the camera into the wall and push record, the flash will turn into a flashlight. And you'll be able to see what's going on in that wall and record it. And then you can go back and like zoom in and look around and figure out what's going on. So if you're moving, you're having these issues, There you go. That's what I've been doing.
Or it could be the contractor's best friend.
It could be the contractor's best friend. Yeah, usually you'd have to get like an oscilloscope or whatever it is. Not an oscilloscope. But endoscope. You have to get something like that and shove it in
I
the
think
wall
that's
and look around and try to find it. But yeah, but you gotta like look around inside there, and yeah, it's a pain. So anyhow, I think we're done. Jen, tell people real quick where they could find you. I know it's on the screen here, but we're also a podcast as well.
Okay, great. You can find me at nextdoormarketer.com or at Jen Blogs for You on Twitter or Instagram. On LinkedIn, I think I'm just Jen Miller. So look for me. Next Door Marketer, my company also has a page, so you can find us there.
How about you, Bridget? What do you got?
BridgetWiller.com, or You Too Can Be Guru on Twitter. It's pretty easy to find on the internet if you look for me. And thanks for watching and listening, folks.
And for me, if you're looking to figure out how to do a bunch of weird household type things and messing around with household stuff, I started my first public Instagram account. So all my Instagram accounts are private. So if you go and do a search for Created Imperfectly, that's our Instagram account for our house. This is what you do. So if you want to learn how any of that stuff works, go feel free to take a look at that. Here's our outro. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me while I talk. Go over to our site over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. And here's our fine folks that helped us out. We really appreciate them and all that they do for us. If you like this stuff, hit subscribe, click the little bell. We'd really appreciate it. And lastly, it's just like I was saying in our outro there, we're also a podcast, so you can listen to us as a podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify. That's awesome. We're also on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, which is YouTube as well. So if you're listening to us as a podcast and you didn't know we actually do YouTube, we do YouTube too. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.